All the street signs are Cayuga County signs.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, didn't know that. That's cool.
He dedicated the television station at the college.
Didn't know that either.
I was there. That's how old I am.
You were at Cayuga when they started the TV station?
Yeah.
A student?
Yeah.
No, I thought you're my age more or less, aren't you? What year was that? You were a teenager, full run, right?
You see any of the, you see anybody missing on your train?
Maybe I was a councilman then. Maybe.
Actually, though, when
But I was there.
Yeah, I went there. I was older when I went there, when I think about it. But so, yeah, it's probably possible, I guess. I thought it'd been around forever.
I didn't see that. You didn't see that?
Don't forget to unmute, Amanda.
This is unmuted now.
Okay.
So we should be all set. I did see that people were.
What does CDC say in that? We're okay or inoculated?
Yeah, the only one I didn't see was done.
See that. Okay.
Yeah, better.
Yeah. Okay, good evening. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:04.
Dr. Whitman?
Here.
Dr. Whitman?
Here.
Dr. Whitman?
He said he was here.
Well, at least somebody can hear me.
I'll be your interpreter.
Yeah, I see him there, Sheila?
Yeah, I see him there.
Kind of sounds like they can't hear anybody but themselves.
Tucker Whitman?
Still here.
Okay. Andy Dennison is excused. Ben Vitale? Ben Vitale? Chris Petras?
Here.
Paul Pinkney?
Here.
Steve Batman?
Here.
Hans Kutcher?
Here.
Mark Strong?
Here.
Heidi Nightingale?
Here.
Elaine Daly?
Here.
Trish Kerr?
Here.
Timothy Lattimore?
Here.
Michael Didio?
He probably left and will come back in. He's
Okay, I know he was
joined the
there.
meeting without his video or his audio.
Ryan Foley? Eileen McDevitt Coleman?
Present. Before we stand for the pledge, I just wanted to send a reminder out to folks here in chambers. Please be careful of any additional noises. It's very difficult for the owl to pick up on what is being said here on the audio or in the room if other people are making noise. So Mr. Batman just had to open up some snacks just now as we were, in case anyone didn't hear that message.
Did you hear that on the that thing? Okay.
So just please be mindful of that. Please stand for the pledge. Like a flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Dorothy Keel, former Cayuga County Republican Party Treasurer and Secretary. David Wright, retired foreman from the Cayuga County Highway Department. Richard Thompson, retired deputy officer for the Cayuga County Sheriff's Department. Sam DeRosa, former legislator, 1990 through 2005. Jim Munkenheimer, town supervisor for the town of Ira.
There's
And-
no,
Madam Chairman, I just say one thing about passing of Sam DeRosa. I know that Sam served on this board for 15 years, and he was just I sit in his seat now, the 13th legislative district, and he was a great role model to me. He was, God and country and family man. He was just a great individual.
thank you for those words, Mr. Lattimore. Our prayers are with all of the families of those who have passed. There's no public hearing this evening. I do have a proclamation that I'd like to share. I would like to know folks who are associated with our Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation, if you could introduce yourselves so that we may take note of who's on. And I will virtually dedicate this to you, and then you will get a hard copy.
Hi, this is Dee Dee Skank.
Hi, Dee. Thanks for being here tonight.
Hi, guys. This is Teresa Humany.
Hi, Teresa. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm Maureen Brennan with Cayuga County Community Mental Health and the FAST team.
Thank you, Maureen. I appreciate you being here. Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2021, entitled You Are Not Alone. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans face challenges in life that can impact their mental health, especially during a pandemic. And whereas there are practical tools that all people can use to improve their mental health and increase resiliency. And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation. And whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen share the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention and treatment efforts. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Aileen McNabb Coleman, Legislature Chair and fellow legislators, to hereby proclaim May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Cayuga County. As the Cayuga County Legislature Chair, I also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Cayuga County to commit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. Thank you for bringing this to our attention and for allowing us to provide a proclamation, and we will send you a hard copy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
one other proclamation. It's I know that mental health is this whole year, and hopefully we can have a mask burning in a couple months. Hopefully we can get rid of the masks and get on with our lives. But it's been very stressful with the addiction and everything else. But one proclamation I did want to say is happy birthday to Chris. Under the proclamation, so brighten up this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn.
yes, a very happy birthday to our county attorney, Chris Palermo.
Thank you.
It's been a day of celebration. Legislator Batman.
Yeah, but follow up with Mr. Lattimore's thing, I would offer this, whereas the years continue to go by, unfettered, bringing deterioration to mind, body, and soul. On this day, we celebrate Mr. Palermo's 52nd birthday. and hope that he has 52 more.
Yeah. Thank you.
I skipped a gap there for a
Wow.
second. Wow, I'm a little impressed. So thank you. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mr. Babin will be correcting everything he says for the rest of the evening.
Let's not go too far.
Okay, up next, we have a presentation by the Finger Lakes National Heritage Area Feasibility Study by Chuck Lawson, Project Manager, National Park Service, Denver Service Center. He's on with us this evening.
Hey, I'm here.
Hi, Mr. Lawson. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, folks. As y'all mentioned, my name is Chuck Lawson. I work for the National Park Service. I'm out in Denver, Colorado. I work in an office that helps individual national parks with environmental planning and strategic planning. And we also help our national and regional offices with special studies, projects that studies that involve consideration of the eligibility of places and sites for status as a national park unit, but also things like the ongoing National Heritage Area Feasibility Study that we are working on right now. Next slide, please. So I've got a brief presentation that shares a little bit about what national heritage areas are and what feasibility studies are, what we're working on now, what those studies aim to accomplish through an evaluation of some specific criteria, and then why we are doing one in the Finger Lakes region. During the presentation, I'll share some information about the National Heritage Area Program. There's this presentation, which you guys have got, is also full of great links, including links to how the public can comment on the feasibility study projects. It is open for public comment right now. Afterwards, I'll take as many questions as you all have. Next slide, please. So what are national heritage areas? Currently, there are 55 NHAs in 34 states across the US. Each one of those heritage areas was created through an individual federal law. Heritage areas are designated by Congress as places where natural, cultural, and historic resources combine to form a cohesive, nationally important landscape. And through those physical resources, heritage areas are designed to tell nationally important stories that celebrate the country's diverse heritage. They are lived-in landscapes. As you can see on that map, some of them are quite large. So consequently, the entities that manage a heritage area are local inside of the heritage area, and they collaborate with the communities that are inside the heritage area, other organizations and government entities to find out ways and to promote ways that make heritage relevant to local interests and needs. There's a second bullet on that slide that's a very important one. National heritage areas are not national park units. Rather, the National Park Service partners with the coordinating entities that run them. We provide technical assistance, and the NPS distributes federal funds to NHA coordinating entities. The National Park Service does not assume any ownership of land inside of a heritage area, nor is there any imposition of land use controls or any kind of federal regulations that come with a designation. Next slide, please. A little bit more about what heritage areas are. As I mentioned, Congress designates them through specific unique legislation. That legislation also identifies that local coordinating entity that will run the day-to-day activities of the NHA. The idea is they are operated in a grassroots fashion via partnerships and cooperation with other local people and organizations. Once a heritage area is established, a certain threshold of federal dollars is designated inside the legislation that creates the NHA for how much money they can get from the National Heritage Area Program. Most of the time, that legislation says that a NHA can receive up to $1 million annually over a set number of years. but there's never been enough money in the overall program to support all the heritage areas that exist to that level. So typical appropriations range from 150,000 to 750,000 federal dollars a year. That federal money that flows to an NHA has to be matched by the coordinating entity. They usually do so by developing, again, partnerships with other organizations to work on projects that they can use to leverage those federal funds, and and build that grassroots, those partnerships that foster a pride of place and an enduring stewardship ethic amongst the public and the residents of a heritage area. Next slide, please. So what kind of things do heritage areas work on? What do they do with that money that they get and that they leverage? Natural resource and conservation projects, things like invasive species cleanups in natural areas, litter cleanups, toxic site cleanups. Historic preservation projects, definitely nuts and bolts type work on historic properties and landscapes, but also documentation efforts, National Register nominations, oral histories, things like that. Recreational programs, trail programs, trail development and promotion is big with heritage areas. Education and interpretation, development of waysides, brochures, websites to promote public access to historic properties, community development, streetscape improvements, Main Street enhancement programs are sometimes sponsored by NHAs, and then definitely economic development, particularly in the form of support for heritage tourism. Next slide, please. So what is going on right now? This feasibility study is what Park Service is up to. It is basically a report that documents the processes undertaken by the National Park Service with the help of residents of a region or a study area to determine whether or not the investigated landscape has the distinctive physical resources and a local capacity necessary to manage a heritage area if one was to be designated. The study will examine whether authorization as a national heritage area is an appropriate strategy for reaching region's resource conservation goals, and also that it fits the region's economic development goals. The process for conducting a feasibility study is laid out in the evaluation of 10 specific criteria that basically seek to answer two basic questions. Is there a unique, nationally important story being told in a particular study area? And can that story be experienced by the public? And then also, is there public support for the idea of a national heritage area designation? And also, is there an organization poised to take on the role of that coordinating entity and manage it if it was to be created? Next slide, please. So why is the Park Service conducting this study? It should be the map slide now. In 2019, Congress passed the Dingle Act. Big legislation, had a lot of directives for public land managers. One of them was told the Secretary of the Interior to present recommendations to Congress on whether or not this 14 county area that you see on the map there has what it takes to be designated as a national heritage area. So the study is looking at those counties and potentially associated areas outside of that boundary in an attempt to identify that unique nationally important story, or multiple stories if they exist, and to catalog the physical resources that are in the study area that support that story and can be experienced in some way by the public. Ultimately, the result, the study findings will be delivered to the Secretary of the Interior, who will prepare a recommendation to Congress. But it's important to note that the study itself will not create a national heritage area, nor would it halt its creation. That designation can only be delivered by Congress, and they have to do it through a new piece of legislation. They are able to act without the study findings. They could also choose to create a national heritage area, even if the findings are negative, and they can choose not to act on positive findings, even if the secretary gives a positive report. So all that just to say is that it's just a study in itself. It doesn't create a heritage area. Next slide, please. Our timeline, we've been working on this project since late 2019. In 2020, we had plans, the full study team, which includes staff in my office in Denver, staff in the regional office in Philadelphia, National Heritage Area Program staff in our Washington and regional office, and then also a few National Park Service employees who are local, live in the Finger Lakes region. So in 2020, we had planned to all visit and personally evaluate the resources and places there. Obviously, that was stymied by COVID. So in its place, we held a series of 14 county-based focus group calls with local historians, education specialists, natural resource specialists, tourism promoters, and recreation specialists. And we asked them all to share with us what some of the unique stories of the Finger Lakes and tell us about the places that represent those stories. We used those were very successful meetings. We used what we learned during them as well as academic research to develop a historic context report that also includes draft themes, which could be viewed as the early version of what those unevaluated, but what those unique nationally important stories might be and what they might look like. And that document also includes a resource list for places, resources of the Finger Lakes that could support those themes. That document is under review now during the comment period, which is open until June 1st. We're asking the public to look it over and tell us what look over that document in consideration of it being, we're sharing with you what we understand about the Finger Lakes, and we're hoping that the public will tell us what we may have missed or what is most important about what it is that we've already learned. In addition to the document, there's also a survey available online that helps us get at some of the other aspects of the evaluation involved with the level of public support that's needed to come to a positive conclusion. Again, I'll mention that the comment period closes on June 1. After that, the study team will be working on completing the evaluation, writing up the report, and hope to deliver it to the Secretary of the Interior so that she can make her recommendations sometime near the end of the calendar year. Next slide, please. I mentioned that the study follows those 10 specific criteria. They boil down into these like 5 buckets, and these buckets are what we're hoping that the public can help us with. The first 3 that are on the screen there: does the landscape have an assemblage of historic, cultural, and natural resources that link together, tell an important national story? The second one, are there outstanding opportunities for the public to experience those resources? And then also, if a heritage area was to be created, could they improve either access to those resources or their preservation and conservation? And then the third one being are there ongoing traditions and customs and lifeways in the Finger Lakes that go on now that can be experienced by people and tie back to that nationally important story? Those 3 buckets are kind of captured in the data that's in the context report and what we're asking for the public in their review of that. And then the 2 on the bottom of the screen there: does an organization exist that has the financial and organizational capacity to coordinate a heritage area, to serve as that coordinating entity if one was to be created? And then lastly, is there public support for the idea of an NHA, and then also public support for that coordinating entity? And are there people out there, individuals, government entities, organizations that are interested in working with the proposed coordinating entity on doing the good work of a heritage area if one were to be created? Those last ones, no matter how many people, no matter how much academic research we do, we can't really capture those without the help of the public and feedback from the population inside the study area about the idea of a heritage area and who runs it. Next slide, please. This slide I shared basically so that y'all would have a link to the National Heritage Area Program website. There's a lot more detail on there about feasibility studies, about the criteria, how they are conducted. There's also links to the existing 55 heritage areas out there in the world so that you can see how it is that they operate and their own websites. And a little bit about how the National Park Service goes about providing that technical assistance when it's needed to coordinating entities. And then the next slide, please, which is my most important one for the evening. This includes the links that we're hoping that you will help us share through your own networks. The first one being the story map, dedicated website that provides a lot of information similar to what I presented in this presentation. And then those next two links take you to the public commenting website. The first one takes you physically to that document that's under review, and the next one to the survey questions. These are great to get the word out on the street, to get individuals, people to provide their own thoughts to the Park Service on this topic. And then my email address is a great place for organizations to send letters of concern or letters of support to get that into the record. Also, I'm always happy to answer questions via email as well. And then my last slide is a thank you. And thank you very much for having me and taking your time. I appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. I appreciate you joining us this evening. At this time, I'll entertain any questions we have for our presenter this evening. If there are any.
Got one.
Legislator Lattimore has a question.
Yes, Brian, the Empire State was built by the Erie Canal, and Mr. Seward was governor and big promoter of that. And Wheat Sport is looking to, Chris, are we looking to put a project,
I've been
to
told
re-water that over there?
the canal, yes, hopefully. Feasibility study should be close to, if not done.
So if we can find a link to that, which is, I think it's already established, the Erie Canal, but maybe to bring that up to snuff, or how much money you think that project, do we know?
Well, they're just at the rewatering phase now to see if it's a go, no-go point in terms of if they're even capable. So we're waiting back from that study, and then we can move forward with the actual rewatering portion that it is feasible.
Would this program help with maybe that project in our county?
So yeah, well, I will point out that the Erie Canalway is a National Heritage Area already, and a portion of it overlaps with the study area for the Finger Lakes, but not, it doesn't entirely overlap. And I would definitely suggest that the Erie Canalway, if you're talking about work specifically with the Erie Canal, then they would be a great partner on a project like that. And yes, that would be the type of project that a heritage area could get involved with. Usually that money, the federal dollars that go to, all heritage areas are run by all kinds of different kind of entities, and they all have different management plans for how they do things. But typically a lot of them rely on subgranting to do work in the community. So they'll have their pot of money, the federal dollars that come, and then they will grant it out for historic preservation projects. That's very much a nuts and bolts type of both for work on a historic property, but it's, and also in an interpretive opportunity, educational opportunity, recreational opportunity once that's rewatered. But yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of project that heritage areas would work on. However, Erie Canalway exists. So that one, and that, which is great because you should go to them now and talk to them about it. But also a heritage area of the Finger Lakes, one of the things we're evaluating and looking at is the potential overlap in themes associated with the Erie Canal. So we will be wanting to see that the Finger Lakes, that a potential Finger Lakes National Heritage Area is promoting something different from just the Erie Canalway. Otherwise, that heritage area already exists.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Legislator Kerr, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you. Great presentation. I am really excited about this planning work and the potential for this heritage area. Everything that I love about the Finger Lakes is like in your report. And there's so many different themes in there. And I was just wondering, how is there going to be a process of refinement? Is there a certain number of themes that you guys hope to settle on for the rollout, or is it the sky's the limit, or how does that work?
So no rule, no hard and fast rule for you, like you must have 2 themes of national importance and no more than 2 themes. So that document is very much unevaluated, right? So we were trying to share with the public that everything that we have heard and understand, so that we can hear back, no, you're missing this, you're missing this, you're missing this. So the evaluation component will take a look at, it's not like the number or the count, but it is, what is absolutely unique about the Finger Lakes, and what story I tend away from the word significance because it has a lot of meaning in other historic preservation contexts, but importance, what is so important about the Finger Lakes that someone like me out in Denver, Colorado should understand it because it's part of my shared heritage. And that story, and what about that story can only be told in the Finger Lakes and cannot be told anywhere else. That's the lens for the evaluation of those themes. So ultimately, like that resource list, if it turns out that 2 of those themes rise to the top and are nationally, have that national importance, then that resource list will get trimmed to the ones that are most associated with those themes. That all said, it's only a recommendation to Congress, right? And if a heritage area is designated, the very first thing that they will work on is a management plan that describes how they're going to interact with the community, what they're going to promote, who they're going to talk to, what resources are important to them. And so there's a lot still of an iterative process that adjusts even what comes out of the feasibility study into real world management far down the road.
Thank you. We have Legislator Batman.
Yeah, I just had a question. Are the contact slide, is that either in the repository or will be available?
A copy of this presentation. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I don't know if this is that one. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Can I just ask one more, if that's okay? You mentioned the study area itself is somewhat flexible, and when you were showing the maps, I saw there was several like Native American reservations just outside of the current boundary. And if I was just curious how flexible that boundary is, or if such a theme was to be established for our area, could there be coordination outside of the heritage area if it doesn't expand to capture certain assets?
So our study we do have flexibility in the study itself. Even the legislation directs us to consider. So again, everything ties to that nationally important story. So if there are resources if that nationally important story is identified, but then there are resources that are elsewhere that are outside of that boundary, then one of the outcomes of the study may very well be suggest extending that boundary to capture those other resources. That's within the possibilities of the study outcomes. I'll point out though that the study itself, the 14 county boundary itself, is from the legislation. It's very much associated with the organization that promoted to your representatives this bill. It's the Finger Lakes Tourism Alliance, and that corresponds with their organization's reach. And they are also being evaluated as a potential coordinating entity, but the legislation didn't direct us to look only at them. So that's one of the other things that we're asking the public for feedback on, who the public thinks is the right group to run a heritage area if it was to be created.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawson, for being with us tonight. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity and the help spreading the word. So thank you all very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we have
Minutes to approve, March 18th and 23rd, 2021.
all in favor?
Aye.
Appointments and reappointments.
I'll move them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And there are no communications or announcements.
Okay, up next, we have the CCC report with Dr. Durant. If you received communication.
He's not going to be here tonight, but he will send something via email soon.
Okay, so Dr. Durant couldn't be with us this evening. He will follow up with the report.
Chairwoman, I have a question, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Chairwoman, this is Heidi Nightingale. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Chairwoman, I would like to call for a Democratic caucus, please.
Okay. Call for caucus.
I
Yeah.
think the time to.
Okay. Yes. Could we have a caucus?
Okay.
She needs to ask for a time to.
Heidi, I believe you need to ask for a time to reconvene.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it has to be made. We'll reconvene in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Could we reconvene in 10 minutes at 6:49?
Thank you.
Can the Republicans join you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like,
And conservative.
we didn't know if we did it. Okay.
We'll go in the opposite of where they go.
Okay.
Take a choice.
We always do that.
We're on one.
The microphone's in one, so you better go. Joey. Just tease, just tease.
This is what I want to do.
December 31st.
Good. Why are you you're so vicious?
Here, can I?
Yeah.
They don't come back in the allotted time, do we get to continue the meeting?
I can't hear.
Hi, Elaine, we were muted.
Okay.
We're unmuted. Everyone.
I thought you were going to get yourself some coffee. You were going to get me
I
some.
was, and then I said, no, I don't need that more. But again, like, I was supposed to today, so. I'm gonna go snack.
That's probably not.
These folks here.
So if they need more time, do we reconvene and they ask for time, or do they just come in and say?
Only the majority and the minority leader can ask for more time.
But they, we don't have to reconvene.
You do.
Oh, we have to all come back and reconvene and save any more time.
We have meeting, the meeting will not reconvene until the majority is present. Caucus may be extended at the request of the majority or minority leader only after the meeting has reconvened.
What's a silly rule? Who wrote that one, Chris? Just kidding. It's a great rule.
What, could you explain what's happening? I'm missing all this.
Waiting.
We're just waiting for everyone to come back to their seats.
Oh, okay.
We'll resume the meeting.
No, Mr. Lattimore, and that's it, right?
Mr. Foley? He's here.
So, go ahead.
Okay. What's that? Yep. Okay, we're gonna reconvene the meeting. Okay, great. Okay, up next on our agenda, we have committee reports and individual legislative reports. If anyone has anything to offer this evening?
Actually, I'll just point out the long awaited, the update of the ethics policy should be to everyone within probably a week at the most. And that will go through the Government Operations Committee, but we'll send it out to everyone so you have an opportunity to look at it.
Great. Thank you, Legislator Badman. Legislator Lattimore.
With the power agency, I sent out a couple articles in regards to major projects that are going on, and some of the commentary of some of our elected officials in Albany. Some of the senators thought that some of the procedures that the governor's going on with solar, just putting them in little or no review, they thought it was unconstitutional. So, the power agency should be able to decipher some of those issues. But I did mention to our fellow legislator Keith that, like steel mills, energy costs are a major piece of their production. And they can get 4-cent rates in other states day in and day out without any negotiation. And ours is like 14 cents. So one of the big hurdles for New York's state is the cost of energy, along with other things like workers' compensation and other hurdles that manufacturing has to go through. And that's why we're losing the congressional seat. So hopefully we can support the power agency to help us get through some of these issues. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, other legislators?
Actually, just wanted to forgive me. I should have done this before. I don't know. Is Dee, are you still on? Yeah. So forgive me. I just wanted to send our condolences because her brother passed. As I think we probably all know. So.
Keith, this is Brian. She is right here and she did hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Legislator Foley?
Did you want to get an update on IT hiring committee?
Yes, please, if you would.
Okay. So IT hiring committee for the director has been progressing rather nicely. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Strong, who's on there, Trish, as well as Chris Palermo, Jody Nickerson, and Aileen. So we've met twice so far. The first time was kind of establishing the structure that I talked about with folks. We also met again today and went over some of the questions that we plan to ask the candidates. Right now, we had, I think, roughly 40 candidates that applied. We whittled it down to roughly 20-ish, 19, somewhere in there. And we're now in kind of a ranking process where that committee can hopefully get it down to like 4 or 5 interviewable candidates that we can call in for a first interview. Whittle that down to even further to something that we can bring forward to the legislature as a couple of candidates and ultimately let the legislature decide which one is best and which one you can see as director. So we're not there yet. It's going to be a longer process, but I wanted to give you an update that that's where we are at. If anyone has questions, just let me know.
Any questions on the CIO search? Thank you, Legislator Foley.
Thank you.
Mr. Lattimore, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, costs in the future with IT, I know that there's been some congressional hearings in regards to the companies that are involved with IT. I mean, they're monopoly, and hopefully, and the costs reflect that. Hopefully, we can have our state and federal people, pursue those people harder, that we can bring the cost down on running our IT. And hopefully we can get some grants with this relief package to pay for some of the infrastructure that we need. So hopefully that's a major concern of IT and who you hire.
Any other legislative reports? For the first part of the chair report, I'm going to call on Kathleen Cuddy for a brief update. How we're faring with COVID and the vaccines in our county.
Great. Thank you, Aileen. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Hello, everyone. Good evening. An update on what's happening with COVID-19 in our county. So we continue to see daily cases that are reported to us through the eClares and ComCare system. 3 times a week, we're sending out a daily update. It seems to be keeping people informed. Today, we had about 19 positives when we started the day. So when you see the report on Friday, it will clarify how many we accomplished that day. So when you say completed after that, notice that's clarification. We're seeing some increase in schools, more so quarantines, certainly, positives also, but because of the proximity of students and teachers, other school personnel to a positive case, when you sit a little closer, the quarantine distance remains 6 feet. So we've seen some increases. There have been some positive cases that have been associated with some sport teams, prom shopping, a party. And then unfortunately in one school, there was a positive case that resulted in 69 people who were quarantined because of the delay in getting the information. And there's one urgent care center well now, which is terribly delinquent in getting the information. So I discourage people from using well now for their testing needs because we are not getting the reports in a timely manner. If they have other options to use, I would encourage them to do that. Today, there's 5 patients in Auburn Community Hospital. And what's been interesting, and I know the hospital is looking to analyze some of their demographics, and will share that with us when that's completed. It's all age groups, and we're seeing 30-year-olds who are in the hospital, younger 50-year-olds who are in the hospital, along with 70-plus-year-olds. So it's not solely an older population. Moving to vaccination, we got access to the state vaccine dashboard yesterday, and that's it shows some of the zip code breakdown, like the information that I was able to share with you a couple weeks ago. We're doing a really good job reaching our 65 and older population, and I really give a lot of credit to our towns, village, and the city who have made a concerted effort to assist our older people and those without internet access and linking into clinics. One of the, I'm going to be seeking some clarification because Moravia's numbers what reflected in the demographics don't look quite accurate to me. I'm thinking that they are incorporating some correctional facility statistics, which is okay, but we want to be able to be certain of that. We've been doing some specialized outreach last week, this week, to our farm worker populations. As you recall, last year around this time is when we got some of our initial positive cases, and they were with farm workers who live in congregate settings and may not seek healthcare routinely, some of them. So we're pleased. These farm worker clinics are on a walk-in basis. So we actually are performing walk-in clinics that way. It's our test group. And if that remains successful, we will see what we can do to offer that to general public as well. The hesitation is more in not wasting any doses of vaccine. As you know, there's a lot of parameters around keeping the vaccine within temperature. Public clinics continue, get your shots. We want to encourage that. And get tested when you need it. Again, I think some people, it's allergy season again, right? It's springtime. So if you do have symptoms, better to be tested. A number of people have been identified with what they might have ordinarily thought were seasonal allergies. And fortunately, their healthcare providers and or urgent care or other people around them or themselves encouraged to get tested. And that's a good thing. We are doing, with people in isolation and quarantine, we are doing some drive-bys at times randomly and some phone calls. That's something we hadn't always been able to do, but we're doing some selected ones, and our partners, some of our other county agencies are assisting us while they're out on the road in supporting that effort, which is good because at times there's reluctance verbalized as far as compliance, and it's really important that people, when they're positive, stay home and isolate themselves and quarantine, watch themselves at home for symptoms. So that's the latest I have. Guidance always changing, so we'll keep you posted as we learn more.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for our Public Health Director, Kathleen Cuddy? We have Legislator Lattimore.
Kathleen, great job on trying to whip this thing, but it's Mental Health Day, and I think it's, I can't wait till we have a mass burning party and get back to normal. Are the hospital beds full now? Or, I mean, the whole thing with the mass was, we have to slow down the rapid pace of entry into the hospital. Are the hospitals full and can't take any more, or where are we in regards to the rush to the hospital?
So I'm not able to tell you what the hospital census is. I don't have that information. Face covers certainly are to help slow the spread of the virus, right? And in this case, so until we are able to reach some herd immunity, which is going to happen when we're able to get vaccinated, I think face covers are here for a while longer.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Oh, Legislator Foley has a question.
Kathleen, what are the guidelines for opening up various buildings, like for instance, like county buildings or city buildings, municipal buildings?
So I'm going to click on some information I have here. There is guidance for offices, and I can certainly share that. It's with the state. It's called Office Interim Guidance. It was updated at the end of March, I believe. I don't have that date right in front of me. Right now, it's 50% capacity for office buildings, maintaining 6 feet distance, and then some other guidance and recommendations.
I believe by mid-May, it was just announced it would go to 75% capacity.
Maybe. I don't know, but that may certainly be.
Yeah, I believe that just came out. So that is a step in the right direction. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Kathleen, for attending tonight and for offering that information and update.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, for the chair report, I was just going to mention this change to 75% capacity of our offices. Much of our building, you know, I hear a lot often, when will the building open? The building is open. Our employees are meeting the needs of our residents in every department. There are state rules applicable to the DMV and social services that I certainly will not overrule. The DMV is meeting the needs of our public with their appointment system. I'm working with Sue Dwyer on some messaging for residents who find it difficult to secure an appointment or have emergent needs related to IDs or other transactions. So please look for that this week. While April remained a busy month with our internal work with operations, it was also dominated by our initiatives. The Finance Committee is meeting weekly. We met today. We've developed a job description for a finance director, as well as looked at several different organizational scenarios for a finance department. We'll continue this work, and Jim Orman, our treasurer, can update the legislature at Ways and Means. The work for the compensation study has been moving along at a nice pace as well. At next month's Ways and Means meeting, we will talk about a request for proposal or an RFP for organizational needs assessment of all of our departmental operations of all of our buildings. Both Lynn Marinelli and I have reached out to other counties and who have done such assessments, are in the process or will be doing such assessments. The committee and I work closely with our purchasing agent, John Carr, to develop and send the RFP. Then this body will discuss the proposals and decide on a way forward for our buildings and our departments, including this building. So please look for that discussion at Ways and Means this month, next month. I've been in contact with Senator Schumer's office quite often. We're awaiting additional guidance from the Treasury Department on the rescue plan and the money to be received by Cayuga County. They anticipate releasing more information around mid-May. I've established a committee to look at the money, which includes representation from Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board, CEDA, Water and Sewer Authority, County Budget Office, and County Planning to initially review the requirements of the funding and look at where investments can be made for our county. We will be holding legislative work sessions on this information as it is established. So this concludes my report. Is there any questions?
Madam Chair, on your list of building analysis, I happened to walk around the parking lot for the courthouse, and it's in deplorable condition. Is that on our list to upgrade maybe?
We're going to be looking at everything associated with our county buildings. It includes our IT infrastructure and surrounding, capital needs such as parking lots and things.
Just put that on the list. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions from the virtual legislative world? I can't see today the hands at all. All right, great. So we're going to move to Ways and Means in our resolutions for this evening. We're going to start with Legislator Batman with that committee.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Ways and Means has 4 resolutions been through committee, unanimous support. They move them as a bundle unless someone wants them separated.
Okay, we have a movement as a bundle, a motion. We had a motion for a bundle. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the bundle? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you. Health and Human Services, we have Legislator Daly.
Yes, Health and Human Services this month had 7 resolutions. They came through both committees, Health and Human Services and Ways and Means. And I'd move them as a bundle, HH1 through HH7, unless anyone would like any separated.
Not hearing opposition on the bundle. Can I get a motion?
Move it, Vitale.
Second, Kerr.
Okay, any discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you. Up next, we have government operations with Legislator Foley.
Madam Chair, Government Operations has 2 resolutions, both passed through the committee plus Ways and Means. I offer them up as a bundle.
Okay. Motion and second.
Separated.
You would like to separate GO1 and GO2?
I'll offer up GO1, that is authorizing the creation and filling of the position of Operations Officer.
Okay. We get a motion?
Nightingale.
Okay. Discussion on this. Legislator Batman?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to both of these because they're, even though we're separating them kind of a group. And all I want to say is that I'm just so pleased these are coming forward, that if people remember, this proposal came out of a meeting that we had some significant time ago. I don't even think it was this calendar year, but I believe it was a meeting with me, Mr. Pinckney, Mr. Lattimore, Mr. Peepus, and our chair. And what we discussed at that meeting was how to move forward with the administrative leadership structure of the county. What we decided at that meeting, and that's where this comes from, is that we really needed to approach it in stages or in 2 ways. One is to find a short-term and an intermediate solution to stabilize the administration of the county. These 2 positions came out of that discussion. The longer-term solution, is not related to this, quite frankly. The longer-term solution involves questions like, do we have a charter? Are we going to have an administrator, full-time chair, part-time chair? We kind of left that to a future discussion. I know Mr. Petrus is pursuing the idea of a charter as a long-term solution, or perhaps some other things. But what these positions do, coming out of that group of it was a discussion facilitated by Mr. Lynch, is to provide kind of a stability for our short and intermediate term function, so that we can move forward the county on some of these issues we've even heard about today. We have many things we need to confront. The situation of our parks, with the parking lot, with our building, with broadband, with our roads. We all can come up with a list of things that we need to pay attention to. These positions will help us have a structure that will allow us to pay attention to those things that need to, while we make the long-term decisions about what we're going to look like. So I'm just very pleased that we're to the point where we're going to move forward with what I consider a long-term plan. This is the first step. It's not the last step. It's the first step, but it's important. And so I'm pleased that we're going to be looking at it tonight. So that I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you for the opportunity.
Further discussion? Legislator Foley?
Yeah, Madam Chair, at committee, we were presented some information from Jen Marshall. I know that one of the questions that she received at the time was, does this expand government or cost us more money? Both of these resolutions, one is budgeted, which is passed the previous calendar year at 75,000, the other one at 55,000. What Jen showed was when we had an administrator form of government, we were paying that individual 150 or 135,000, plus there were roughly 2 to 3 secretaries underneath that, plus a part-time chair. What this calls for is one $75,000 position, and that one $55,000 position, plus a full-time chair. The costs still come underneath what we were paying at that same time. That's one. 2 is, as these have been crafted over months, especially the operations manager, with input from the different individuals in the legislature, the loud and clear overarching point was that, especially for the operations manager, they did not want it to look or sound or feel like an administrator. So we worked very hard to make sure we put in the job description in there that it has no decision-making authority. It's simply someone that coordinates the various departments, department heads, and ultimately it entirely reports to the chair. So I think that those are two of the main concerns, cost and kind of authority. And I think that we were able to do a good job of crafting these so that they did not succumb to those items.
Thank you.
And if I may point out, these are in the budget. New positions or
Okay.
extra budget positions.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mr. Whitman?
I can't say that these positions are good or bad. My thoughts on this really has nothing to do with the positions and more to do where the county's at. For the last 2 years, we've been telling a lot of department heads, no. Now's not the time. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Now's not the time. We don't know what's going to happen with our budget. Now's not the time for you to hire. Now's not the time for you to spend money. Just last week at Ways and Means, we beat a department head up pretty good over $8,000, and the words were spoken. Now's not the time to expand government, to grow government. And the chair position was given a bump in the budget. In between that and these two positions, we're now looking at increasing the administrative salary lines on the 6th floor by almost $150,000. Sitting on the outside looking in, kind of looks like it's time to grow government when it suits us, not when it suits a lot of other departments in the county. We're going on our 3rd year without an administrator. And, thanks to the hard work of the chair, the department heads, and a lot of the county employees, we've not had to close our doors. We are still functioning. We are still moving forward. Are we moving forward in projects and areas where we really want to grow? Probably not at the rate we'd like to. And these positions would help with that. I am not saying they wouldn't. I'm not saying the positions are a bad idea. I'm just saying I don't feel like now is the right time. I realize we put the money in there. There was a lot of money put in the budget in different areas that didn't get spent because now was not the time. So I will not be supporting either of these positions tonight due to that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Petro, your hand was up.
Yes, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. We're talking about changing our form of government. Until we have some firm plans, at least some firm plans in the works, we shouldn't be instituting new positions. And I do believe that this position is basically, the operations officer is basically the administrator in disguise. And seeing as how we paid the last 2 off, here's another candidate for $150,000 that we're creating. Thank you.
Okay, Legislator Pinckney?
So I've got some mixed emotions on both. However, I agree with the points that were brought forth. I do believe that the operations officer, I just am not 100% convinced. I know short term, what Keith was saying, but I'm just not convinced we're there yet. I will support the clerical secretary to help out, because I believe the burden is obviously there. But I just can't support the first one at this time.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Lattimore, did you have your hand up?
We're living in a situation for the last year that's unprecedented. I mean, I've never seen the federal government spend as much money as they're spending. And I'd like to see what form of government has captured, a lot of that money. I think a strong executive elected. Our neighboring county has captured a lot of money because of their relationships with certain people. So, I mean, I always like to study how we can get the most bang for the buck. And I think that, like Hans was saying, we have to study the form of government that we have and then go from there. So I'll support the secretary. But the other one I can't.
I think I'm going to add to this discussion as well. In December 2020, we passed the budget with support for the sixth floor built in, but now I'm hearing confusion and opposition to this measure. And I want to ask this body today, what do you want? If we investigate a charter commission, we've had no discussion to this date on whether or not we're going to do that. If we investigate and propose a charter commission to the people to vote on by referendum this November, it will be about 2023 before we have any charter in place. This charter form of government would allow for many possibilities of leadership, such as an appointed administrator or an elected executive. In the meantime, there's a full-time chair with over 30 reports, which oversee approximately over 750 employees and a $152 million budget. What I'm hearing is today, and what I've been hearing, the county hasn't fallen apart. People are still coming to work, etc. This is not an accurate measure of how successful our county is or can be. This measurement of a bar is not the one I want to set for our county. Our county deserves better, and our employees of this municipality deserve a lot better. So I ask you tonight with full transparency, what is the expectation of this body for leadership and why? What do you expect is going to happen tomorrow? What do you think happens day in and day out here? I am alone on the sixth floor and have been through a pandemic and regular operations. When you're talking about saving money, you've got the best deal in town. And I will stand up tall and tell you that. I don't know what you want. Anyone would like to add to this discussion? Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and vote.
Well,
Could we have a roll call?
Yes, roll call vote. Legislator.
I just wanted to also echo Keith's statement about the way I look at these votes is that these are the first steps in starting to build a team on the sixth floor that is going to take us into an era, hopefully, of greater planning, greater prosperity with the county. There's so many different things that we can do, but you can't run on fumes. And these are key positions that would be present in any organization of this size. I do appreciate hesitancy when the whole full picture isn't in front of us. But I do think that there is just a basic capacity need, and that to have these positions in place so that we have some level of continuity from one body to the next is really important. So I will be supporting these tonight. Thank you.
Legislator Foley.
I'll just offer up one final word, is that what we currently have is working, but it's certainly not going to keep working as everyone thinks it's going to. So various plans to staff the sixth floor to give the chair position some help. We've been working on these for what, 3-4 months, especially at Government Operations Committee. I've mentioned them at every legislative meeting. If you have questions, if you have comments, bring them to the table. Let's get them addressed, and move on from there. This is kind of the final result of that. So there would be kind of a disappointment in people that have had an opportunity to speak up try to shape these positions to something that, they would be supportive of, only to get to this point and say that they are against them for one reason or another. It's a tough pill to swallow. So, that would be it.
Aileen, I just wanted to add too, I agree, these positions were structured in a way that spoke to the people on this legislature who wanted a strong chairman form of government and not to repeat history in terms of paying out an administrator. This is a position that was going to serve unclassified without an employment contract to assist the legislature in moving its work forward under the chairman's direction. So I don't understand how, we can say that we're setting ourselves up again to buy out another administrator.
And I will reiterate, that is our current form of government. We have a form of government right now, and maybe we need to relook at what state we're in. Can I
Call the
this question? Thank you. Roll call vote, GO1.
Tucker Whitman. Tucker,
No.
thank you. Andy Dennis is excused. Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Chris Petrus,
No.
Paul Pinckney,
No.
Keith Batman,
Yes.
Hans Kutcher,
No.
Mark Strong,
No.
Heidi Nightingale,
Yes.
Elaine Daly,
Yes.
Tricia Kerr,
Yes.
Tim Lattimore,
No.
Michael Didio. Michael Didio. Is the one? Michael Didio,
You're muted, Mike. There he is.
No.
Ryan Foley,
Yes.
Elaine McNabb Coleman.
Yes. Defeated.
Okay, GO2.
GO2, was the secretary position.
Do roll call again. Chairman?
Amanda?
Yep.
Tucker Whitman,
No.
Andy Dennis is excused. Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Chris Petrus,
Yes.
Paul Pinckney,
Yes.
Keith Batman,
Yes.
Hans Kutcher,
Yes.
Mark Strong,
Yes.
Heidi Nightingale,
Yes.
Elaine Daly,
Yes.
Trish Kerr,
Yes.
Tim Lattimore,
Yes.
Michael Didio,
Yes.
Ryan Foley,
Yes.
Elaine McNabb Coleman.
Yes. Pass. Planning, Legislator Pinckney.
Planning has two resolutions before you, both been through committee and seek approval.
Can I get a second? Okay, any discussion on these? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you. Legislator Whitman, Public Works.
Madam Chair, Public Works has 7 resolutions that have been through committee. I'd like to offer for your consideration.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion on these? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I'm not opposed to, I'm just concerned about timing with all the federal money that's out to the Water and Sewer Authority to prepare maps and plans for the regional water system. I just don't want us to put the cart before the horse. And then all of a sudden, we're not allowed to get federal funding because we started this project. Just want to make sure of that timing.
Noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. JPS, Legislator Vitale.
Madam Chair, JPS has 5 resolutions, 1 and 3 through 6 that have gone through both committee, and I would offer them up as a bundle.
Okay, we have a bundle of 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Second.
Any discussion on these as a bundle? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think we're done. I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good night, everyone.
Over and out.